Welcome to TQ Talks, where taxes meet planning. Here's your host, Craig White.
Welcome back to another episode of TQ Talks. I'm your host, Craig White, and with me today, we have, the one and only Mr. Ravel D'Souza, owner of Empire Tax, the guy who actually brought me into this industry, and as he loves to say, he's been my friend since 94. Ravel, what's up, man? How you doing? Thanks for coming on.
What's going on, man? Thank you for having me, man. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, man, listen, I promise this won't hurt that much, but I will be asking some questions because, as you know, the bread and butter of our business, meaning TQ Financial Services, it's a lot of business owners, and you started your business as Empire Tax, and you and Claudio, shout out to Claudio, rest in peace, you guys had brought and built, along with Jason Jones. Jason, I will have you on here, Mr. Olympian. You had built have built a successful tax business, a tax company, and you had used, it seemed like, your connections and your personality and the way you are naturally of being with people and speaking with people to grab and gravitate people towards you. So I just want to do a backstory, let the audience know exactly who you're speaking, who they are speaking to, and we're going to get to it. I'm going to ask you some questions. But it's really for the entrepreneurs, right, to understand, what life is like outside of us, me, Pat, Sebastian, talking about our journey, and several other people we had on here. That's great, but it's also good to know that depending on where you're coming from, good, bad, and in between, success is always an option. You already know we try to put God first in everything. I make sure I say that.
Amen.
But ultimately, that's what the goal is for this podcast, is just to strengthen it and build up people. So I know you don't mind sharing your backstory. So, without further ado, we'll get into it. So in a short way, try to tell me like who you were in high school, and did you ever imagine owning a business back then?
No, I did not. So in high school, I'm from Jamaica, born and raised in Jamaica, came here in 1984. And in high school, which for me was 1990 to 1994 is my high school years. I've always been a super studious person because my mother instilled in me that education was key. So from a young age in high school, and most people who know me now, as crazy as I may seem and wild and this and that, the one thing I've always had that no one really knew about unless they took the time to dive in deeper to Questa, my wife. She realized how smart I was. So from a young age, my mother would always make sure, and the people in Jamaica and the school in Jamaica, they made sure that you were top notch in your education, how you wrote, how you spoke, phonics. So in high school, for me, high school was all about getting straight A's.
Got you.
That's it. Straight A's. I got my first C in 11th grade and I cried.
Wow.
My first C. I was straight A's, math competitions, everything. And my first C caused this person that you know as Ravel D'Souza today to cry back in high school. So in high school, all it was about was making sure, I think in my 4 years of high school, I only missed 9 days. And that's because I went out with a cousin, jumped a fence, tore a hole in my leg to where I had to go to the doctor to get 30 stitches. And because of that, that's the only time I missed school.
Right. So for you then, high school is education first.
Correct.
And did you think, because you also are a sports guy, and I don't want to go too far into that, but did you think at that point sports, education, no entrepreneurship, or did you think business because of maybe the people you saw? I know how mom works, etc. But did you think, hey, you know what, this might be a path for me, or I'm gonna go work a job?
So I don't know if I can say this, but I am. So entrepreneurship was not even in my brain at that time because I didn't even know what that was. For me, it was literally my mom was like straight A's. You're going to college,
right?
And that was it.
Fair enough.
Because no one in college, for me, no one ever in my family had ever been to college.
Right. It's not relatable.
Right. It was always on my back and whatever the case may be. So now entrepreneurship was going into my family, but it was some illegal.
I understand.
Gotcha.
Which you could say it's fine.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, it was big time drug dealers. My brother and I have different dads. So my dad still live in Jamaica. His dad was here, and they ran Broward, Miami, and the Tri-County area for a very long time.
I understand.
Long time. So even though that's a type of entrepreneurship, it's illegal.
Right.
And I didn't think about it then because my mother was always like school, straight A's, and just you're going off to college, and that was it. So entrepreneurship wasn't even in my brain in high school.
Yeah, which is, you know what, and that's a blessing because you ain't going that kind of direction.
Correct.
Which is a good thing. Because the lure of money, trust me, with our friends and backgrounds, it's hard. So Florida State, we meet up. You know, we're not going to get into our Street Fighter story. That's for another day. But what made you think about or pick finance? Like, why? Because you know, I know you very well. You're a really smart guy. I tell you all the time. I think the only person scary enough that's smarter than you is Mr. Colin Ram Sammy, right? Which he's going to hear this podcast, and I give him his credit. He's crazy, but like he's really smart.
Yeah,
you know, so
hence the Scrabble.
Right, exactly. So the thing is, when I see you two, I think, man, it doesn't matter what you guys honestly decided to do.
You're gonna do well.
Right. So what made you pick finance?
So it actually picked me.
Oh.
That's funny enough that you say that. So high school, like I said, straight A's, going to school, never missing days except for the surgery. But I was really good in math. I always scored in all my testing the 99th percentile in math, science, and stuff like that. So when you're scoring in the highest percentile of everything, everybody's telling you what you should do. So what happened was I was actually geared towards mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
So when I first went to Florida State, I was already predetermined engineering at the engineering school off of Tram Road.
Right, with fam.
Yeah, I was already predetermined for engineering. Well, what happened was I didn't really want to go to college, just to let you guys know that. I was trying to go into the Marines.
Oh.
I went, took the ASVAB, this, that. The pressure of everybody wanting me to accomplish something that they hadn't accomplished got to me after graduation. And I went and did everything to try to get into the Marines. Mind you, I had got accepted into every single school in Florida. So I got UF, Florida State, and I went to where it gave me the most money, which was Florida State, which is the furthest away. So now I go there, and my first 2 years, you have to keep a certain GPA for engineering and to keep your scholarships, and I wasn't. I went women crazy because in high school, my mother did not let me have a girlfriend until I was in my senior year. So now when I got to Florida State, I pretty much, what they call it, I was wilding out.
Right.
So after 2 years, I got kicked out of Florida State. I had to go to TCC for 2 semesters, got my grades back up, got back into Florida State, and I changed from engineering to finance because I was really good at math.
Makes sense. So then that, you know, by the way, so again, you guys, the story to success is not perfect. And we all relate. And that's the best part about it, man. It's not this, oh, you know, everything is wonderful. My parents hand down X and we're all going to win, because it doesn't normally work that way. It'll be great. It'll be great. We're all trying to build it up, but it is what it is. So with that being said, you graduate, right?
I did. And
did you ever think of trying to get a job with a firm, a Morgan Stanley, a Charles Schwab, or anything like that? Was that part of it?
It actually was. So my final year at Florida State, a lot of my finance classes was in the Doak Campbell Stadium. They had made classes over there and stuff like that. So I had a lot of my financial management problems and all my finance stuff was over there. And one time there was a person from Merrill Lynch.
Okay.
Merrill Lynch had came and spoke, and I was like, yeah. So the plan was after graduation, I wanted to work for Merrill Lynch.
Got you. Okay. We're going to, and I, you know, do you mind sharing really briefly what happened and why you didn't?
Yes. It was very simple. So I'm a speed demon, as a lot of people know. And when I graduated with really good grades, I think I graduated from Florida State with like a 3.6 something. And that's after bringing it up from a 1.91 because I got kicked out. Right. So I graduated, have my degree signed by the governor of that time, which was Jeb Bush. And I'm like, okay, I did something. So now I started to apply for jobs. My very first job that I applied for was Enterprise Car Rental. Funny enough, I'm trying to drive cars for Enterprise Car Rental. And I went through 3 interviews. I had to meet with the recruiter, a branch manager, and then like the area director to make sure everybody liked the person that was bringing on, because Enterprise Car Rental is a private company. Okay. So at the time I had my braids, I had a beard, I had everything. And they told me like, hey, if we hire you, you can't have your braids and you can't have a beard. And I was like, okay, no worries, because I wanted to make money. Well, I passed all the interviews. Everybody loved me. They're ready to hire me. They did a background check. And I didn't have a record, but my background check showed that I had 6 points on my driving record.
Oh, wow.
And that 6 points deterred them from hiring me, because part of my job at Enterprise would have been driving the cars back and forth. So when they saw my record, they thought I was a liability.
So, I didn't think it was going to go this way, but we're going to pause. No, the reason why I'm laughing is because, as adults, you look back at things and you're talking to your son and your daughter. You have kids, and I'm sure listeners, you guys are. When you're trying to give them feedback and help them to understand that the little things you do, the mistakes you make can shift.
Could come back to bite you.
Oh, my God. And so something as simple as points. And again, when you're young, 18, 19, 20, 21, who's not? At least for a guy, you're going to speed, you're going to do dumb things. And these things, though, can have an adverse effect. And again, this wasn't supposed to be a God show, but I'm going to make sure I say this. It's funny how it doesn't really matter, because he makes things work for how his good. It doesn't even make a difference. So I'm going to move on. So we know that part didn't happen, and there was a segment in life that, of course, shifted everything, right? And you could briefly talk about that, and then we're going to go into your entrepreneurship side. So you didn't get the job there, and then what happens after that?
Do you guys really want to know?
I mean, we have to. That's on you.
I went to jail for 14 months.
And why? Briefly.
So what happened was, my record that caused me to not get the job at Enterprise that started in Tallahassee followed me down to Broward County. And after a while of continuing to do crazy stuff down here, it violated my probation that started in Tallahassee. And the judge gave me chance after chance after chance, because I was on felony probation, because they had habitualized me for not paying attention.
Right.
So eventually, after my 4th violation, the judge gave me 365 days, and I did 14 months in jail.
Wow. So, okay. And you did it. And that's, again, it sucks because of what happened for you to have to go through that. So you get out, and how did you end up? Because finance is still a big world, and you still have a degree. You're still an intelligent person. How you end up with taxes?
So taxes was because of someone I met in Tallahassee by the name of Jason Jones. So a lot of people, and how I talk to my kids, you don't have to go to college, but you have to have a plan. But college is not only about going to learn and education and stuff like that. It is part of it, but it's also to broaden your horizons and to also meet different people, because different people, can bring different ideas and things in your life. So Jason Jones, who Craig mentioned earlier on, Mr. Olympian, because he went to the Olympics twice, he saw me after he left California. We saw each other in Sunrise, where I was living with my wife at the time, and he was like, bro, I did taxes with this husband and wife team, and they seem like they're making money, and you know a lot of people, and you're the only person I know down here. And it pivoted into taxes, because at the time when I met him, I was doing real estate and mortgages, as everyone knows. And in that time, 2008, 9, and 10, there was a mortgage implosion. And I wasn't making any money, going through my divorce, and I had nothing to lose. So when Jason brought the idea to me, I reached out to everybody. Let's just say I reached out to everybody, and it worked. God made it work. God put his hands on it to see that at that time I was being an obedient person. Right. I'm not always obedient, but I was an obedient person, and he gave me the blessing to let almost 800 people come to me in year 1 of taxes, which is phenomenal.
That's a lot. So, which is, you have a successful business now. you've gone through hardship, and we're all going to go up and down. So let's make sure it's not going to be, roses and rainbow bridges and crap for the rest of your life. It doesn't work that way. That's what it is, peaches and cream.
That's what my wife said.
So one of the things we used to have for our I forgot what it's called, your call tag, whatever. We used to have educate, elevate, empower us, and we had to get at Ria. We're still waiting for you to do our other one. I won't say that for but anyway, when did you realize, because again, taxes is something you brought me into. You said, oh, Craig, you got finance background, blah, blah. And I said, I don't want to do this crap. And then eventually, right, it works. But for me, you know how I am. I'm a studious guy, and I love learning, and I keep going. When did you realize that the knowledge or understanding what taxes was, what is not just compliance, it's not following rules, but it's a leveraging tool for business owners, for entrepreneurs, and regular people alike, but again, when did you realize that this thing is bigger than us plugging in some numbers and calling it a day?
Funny enough, that's a good question. It actually came from you, Craig.
Oh, well.
It came from you because for the first 9 years, it was, being compliant and knowing what you're doing. But for me, it was plugging in numbers and plugging in the right forms. Well, actually, I didn't do it. Sorry. Claudio did it.
Yeah.
But I brought the people in. I was the fisher and he was the fryer.
Right.
So for the first 9 years, it was really just bringing people in, doing right by the people, preparing proper taxes to make sure they weren't getting letters or audited by the IRS. And for 3 years after my divorce, I wasn't really making any money. So when taxes hit, it was really about making money to just provide for my daughter, and eventually when my wife and I got back together, the family.
Right.
So it wasn't anything about leverage or anything at that time until Craig White brought that to me about, being able to do different things with the tax industry that I had brought him into. Fair
enough. So then what do you think is the hardest part about being a business owner that nobody really warns you about? Because, Sebastian uses a phrase, and if you haven't heard it before, he calls us first geners, meaning first gen business owners. And it's a big deal to understand because we are missing half of the information, or more than that, because we have nobody to bounce it off of. So for you, what was the hardest part of being a business owner?
You work double.
Oh, yeah.
That's plain and simple for me. You work double. So what a lot of entrepreneurs, so an entrepreneur to me cannot be made. You either have to be it or not, because what it takes to be an entrepreneur, because you never know what you're trying to do, when it's going to work or if it's not going to work. If you're a true entrepreneur, you just believe. The hardest thing for me was the double work. A lot of people's like, oh, you work for yourself and you do this. Yes, you have full autonomy of what you're doing in your business and so on and so forth. But what a lot of people don't see, when you're sleeping at night, I'm at the office till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And another big thing that I always discuss with my wife, and no, it's just different. She's a W-2 worker bee, and she's good at what she does, and she makes good money.
Right.
But she doesn't have to bring the business to the table.
Right.
When you are a business owner and an entrepreneur, you're doing two works. You have to bring the business in, and then you got to work the business. So now when Claudio and I separated and he passed away, I now became the fisher and the fryer.
Right.
So I do double the work, and I'm okay with it because I still have full autonomy of my business and my time, but I work more. I work double.
Wow. So I would say it's funny you say that, because this whole thing, I knew you were coming by. At 3:40, I got up to use the bathroom because, I drink a ton of tea. A.M.
Okay.
Ton of green tea, guys. I'm sorry. I drink a lot of water and tea. That's all I ever drink. And I get up at 3:40. I lay back down, and my brain doesn't shut off. And I literally put together 2 new podcasts, worked on files. This is me in bed on my phone till 4:55 this morning.
Wow.
Yeah. And and then I said, okay, God, please, I can sleep for an hour before I have to wake up and take care of this boy.
God.
But that's entrepreneurship.
Correct.
It doesn't really shut off.
Never shuts off. Never shuts off.
The next thing I have for you is, what skill, you could try to pick one. And I know it's hard because I know who you are. You're going to say all, but don't. What skill mattered to you most early on in business? Mindset, sales, or discipline? See, because I know you want to say, well, all of them, man. No.
I'm going to say discipline.
Wow. Okay, I didn't pick that.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong, because you can have the mindset, still not have a discipline, not going to work.
Right.
You have to have the discipline in anything in life, because the one thing I've learned over the past 18 years and still learning, but the one thing I learned and try to teach my son, everyone can be good, but to be great, you got to be consistent.
Amen.
And to be consistent, you got to be disciplined.
You know, it's funny when Mike, shout out Mike, when I got out from college, he's playing, you know, I play all these doggone basketball leagues, but one of these guys, Mike, I used to play with, an older gentleman, really good, skilled or whatever, but I was, you know, I'm younger, athletic, jumping all over the place. And he was always so funny because he used to say, man, you are Mr. Consistency. And I'm like, what you call? He's like, Craig, I don't have to tell you nothing. You do the same thing over and over. And I'm like, yeah, that's my brain. I can't shut that off. So yes, I agree.
That's where greatness comes from. That's the difference between being good and great, is consistent, because NBA, NFL, football players, basketball players, soccer players, everyone can be good for a month, a year, 2 years, whatever. But the greats, the GOATs, they are consistently good their entire life. They make no excuses. They're sick. They're this. They're that. No, they consistently come to the table and perform. They might not perform their best because they're sick or hurt, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But they are consistent and don't make excuses, and that's the difference between being good and being great.
Amen. So, if someone, you know, the audience is listening and they feel stuck in the W-2 situation and they're thinking about ownership, what would you say to ask themselves? Like, what's the thing you say to yourself internally before you make the decision to say, you know what, I'm going to work on a business for myself?
Are you disciplined? That's going to be my first thing, because even my wife has a side business, right? And my wife is a really, really good, smart person, but entrepreneurship and business ownership is just not for everybody. It really isn't. Yeah. There's a lot of people that we know close to that have thoughts and ideas that come, and that's fine. Hopefully you have someone on your team that can help you implement, because you can have all the ideas in the world. You can have this, you can have that. Case in point, Jason Jones and I, we were trying to enter into the NFLPA and be agents and represent athletes, because both he and I knew some athletes that we were trying to get into the NFL. My business partner, Claudio, who was the worker bee that did the taxes, Jason wanted him to be the agent, but he couldn't be the agent because he's not disciplined enough. And the reason why Jason wanted him to be the agent, because Jason could not be the agent and go directly to speak with the athlete.
Clients,
it was like illegal or something like that.
Yeah, it's a conflict.
But the part of this story to understand is that Claudio could not be the agent because he's just not that person. So if you're a W-2 employee, you have to really search inside yourself. Are you really just a W-2 employee? Because some people are.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Correct. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people we have as clients that make a boatload of money as and again, you have the freedom to know that you're going to have maybe some good medical, and there's a lot of advantages, I'll be honest, to being a W-2. From the tax advantage side, we don't look at that, but for life and moving forward, man, like Ravel always say, pay me $300,000. Is it that the number still at 300?
375.
Pay me $375 to go sit in the office and
behind the desk.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen, I totally get it. So if you can go back to when you were 18 years old, what advice would you give yourself about career and risk?
That's a lot. So 18 years old, I had just gotten to Florida State.
That's right. That's why I picked it.
And it's tough. This answer is tough because what I've gone through in my life made me who I am today. But if I was going to be if I had the advice of the 50-year-old me given the 18-year-old me, the number one thing I would say is still risk in yourself, as far as, entrepreneurship, believe in yourself, nothing tried, nothing gained. I've been blessed enough that I always have high risk and high reward. But let's take the word risk into another portion of my life with driving and racing and all that. I've been in some serious car accidents where a friend of ours named Jody Tatum thought I was dead.
Shout out to Jody.
When we left Sprint and was racing. So I'd be less risky in my health and my personal life, but still take the risk on in betting on myself, because I knew that I was disciplined enough to go after what I want and not wait on anybody to give me anything. Because the one thing I learned in this world, it could be your parents, because it was a thing with my mom. My mother, even though she gave me shelter and food and whatever, my mother never placed $1 in my hand. And maybe some of my issues nowadays is from that, because I always like to hold on to stuff, but Craig teaches me differently. But like, my mother never placed money in my hand. So that made me just
work harder.
I worked harder, because if the person who brought me into this world was not willing to give me what I wanted for myself out of life, then who makes anybody else who's not my mother going to give me that? So I never depended on anybody in the world to give me anything. So I went and got it myself.
So self-discipline is back at top again, guys.
Correct.
It is making a risk on yourself, betting on yourself, understanding your path, and being disciplined enough to carry it out, man. Ravel, listen, I want to thank you, from the bottom of my heart for coming over. You're supposed to be eating with me, right? And I end up dragging you to do a podcast. But listen, people are going to get a lot from this, and I know they will. So I appreciate you for sharing, for being candid, for being open. The entrepreneurs, I know you're listening and trying to figure out what life is like. Just know it's not perfect.
And not easy.
And it's not easy. And it's okay.
And the same path is not for everybody. What I mean by that, you can be an entrepreneur, but you don't have to do it the same path someone else did. Because there's some people that we know that's trying to do the same thing as how someone else did it, but it doesn't work for them and it deters them. It's a different path for everybody.
And the funny part is that's what I had written on here. Thinking about your own path, that's the whole point, right? So as always, we thank everyone for tuning in and listening to another episode of TQ Talks. We will be back again next week with, I think, another guest. If not, I'll give some rambling, give you guys some more information. But thanks for tuning in. Ravel, again, thank you so much for coming in, man. We appreciate it.
It was my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, TQ.
Later, guys.
Thank you for listening to TQ Talks. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend on iTunes, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information at tqfinancials.com.